Good evening. This is the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened in India and around the world with me, Shan Russell. Tonight, our focus still remains on Pakistan as the nation copes with the tragedy of the terror attack in Peshawar, which left over 130 school children dead. Support has poured in from across the world for Pakistan in its war on terror, with even India reaching out. We'll be talking about all that and more over the next half hour, but first a look at the headlines we're tracking right now. Mourning in Pakistan for 3 days after Taliban killed 132 children on Tuesday, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif lifts moratorium on death penalty and vows to eliminate all terrorists in Pakistan. India stands with Pakistan in prayers, tributes and vigils across the country. Centre asks to beef up security at schools. The Union Cabinet clears the constitutional amendment bill to bring in a new GST regime, bill likely to be tabled in this session. Deadlock continues in the Rajya Sabha for the third day over demands of Prime Minister's statement on conversions. Chairman invokes Rule 255 to remove Congress MP Hanumant Rao. And the Russian currency ruble is in a free fall. President Medvedev says ruble exchange rate is out of comfort zone, but no reason to panic just yet. Well, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has lifted the moratorium on the death penalty a day after 9 Pakistan Taliban killed 132 children in Peshawar. Now, tearful tributes were paid as the nation went into 3-day mourning over the tragedy. The world joined Pakistan in its hour of grief, condemning the worst ever terror strikes in Pakistan's history.
उनसे फायरिंग शुरू हुई। हमने सोचा होगा कि बाहर दूर से फायरिंग होगी, चीखने की आवाज़ें भी आई है। 2-3 मिनट बाद डायरेक्ट आई है, वो कुंडे मुंडे तोड़ दिया, बस हम बैठे हुए थे, हम सबको मार दिया। 10-11 लोग थे हम।
वहाँ पर एक चेंजिंग रूम था, तो हम उधर छुप गए थे और मरने का नाटक कर रहे थे। वो समझे ये मर गए, मगर उन्हें 2 बंदों पर शक था। उसी टाइम सर पे मारा, यहाँ पर।
हमको ऐसे लग रहा है कि वो जो कल थे स्टूडेंट, वो आज नहीं है। वो आज जहाँ कब्रों में दफन हुए हैं, और हमको बहुत दर्द हुआ है, और वो भी हमारे भाई है।
Hundreds are still battling for life in hospital, scarred for the rest of their lives, as the nation wept for those who fell prey to Pak Taliban's bullets on Tuesday. 132 students were killed in this Peshawar school, where militants walked from class to class, shooting them indiscriminately in the Taliban's deadliest attack to date. Pakistan began 3-day mourning over the tragedy with mass funerals and prayer vigils for the victims. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif announced an end to the moratorium on the death penalty for terrorism cases.
इस जंग को उस वक्त तक जारी रखेंगे जब तक हमारी सरजमीन पर एक भी दहशतगर्द बाकी है। आज का ये इजलास उस जज्बे को तहसीन की नज़र से देखता है जिसके तहत हुकूमत ने तमाम सियासी जमातों को एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर इकट्ठा होने का मौका दिया।
नेशनल इशू है, इसके ऊपर हम आपकी पूरी हिमायत करेंगे।
Sharif said there was a dire need for speedy trials of terrorists who need to be brought to justice soon. He also vowed that Pakistan will chase the terrorists to their hideouts and eliminate them. World leaders have also voiced disgust at the attack, which even the Afghan Taliban have criticized.
No grievance can excuse such horror. It is an act of horror and rank cowardice to attack defenseless children while they learn.
It is nothing to do with one of the world's great religions, Islam, which is a religion of peace. This is a perversion.
Perpetrators must be brought to justice. And we pledge our full support to the people of Pakistan in this difficult hour.
Pak Army Chief General Raheel Sharif was rushed to Afghanistan to seek extradition of Taliban leader Mullah Fazlullah. His group claimed responsibility for the attack. General Raheel's emergency visit came after Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif spoke to Afghan President Ashraf Ghani. Pakistan is now expected to seek Afghan military's help to combat terrorism in the region. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, India also joined Pakistan in mourning over the Tuesday's tragedy, but there is a scare over security arrangements in school back home. Home Minister Rajnath Singh has asked all state governments to beef up security. Amid all this, there's fresh intelligence input of a possible terror strike during US President Barack Obama's India visit next month.
Schools across India observed 2-minute silence on Wednesday after an appeal from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Prayers, protests and vigils were held in many places against the ghastly terror strike in Pakistan. Both houses of parliament also mourned the victims of the tragedy.
This senseless and brutal, cowardly act is deplorable. The loss of innocent lives in this incident is indeed tragic and unfortunate. This incident only reaffirms our resolve to fight terrorism with more determination and firmness.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh has asked all state governments to step up security across all educational institutes to avoid a Peshawar-like siege in India.
बस इतना ही कहूँगा कि सारी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को एडवाइजरी होम मिनिस्ट्री से जारी कर दी गई।
हम पूरी तरह से सजग हैं। सुरक्षा की जो रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं उसके लिए जो ओवरऑल एनवायरनमेंट को हमेशा मद्देनजर रखा जाता है।
There has been fresh intelligence input that Lashkar militants could strike in India during US President Barack Obama's visit next month. Obama will be in Delhi as a chief guest for the Republic Day celebrations.
So we always keep in mind the overall security scenario in the country as well as anywhere else in the world, and also we always keep in mind the latest inputs available regarding security situation, and then we ensure that whatever is necessary, that is done.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to his Pak counterpart Nawaz Sharif on Tuesday night. He offered his condolence, assuring all possible help from India in the hour of grief. With inputs from Kriti Mishra and Anu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And the stalemate continued in the upper house of parliament for the third day in a row as the united opposition insisted on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's response to a debate on rising communal incidents. Now, the government in turn lashed out at the opposition for obstructing house proceedings. The issue of rising communal violence was listed for discussion today, but the standoff between the government and the opposition resulted in the washout of the business of the Rajya Sabha.
But it is usually done after...
The opposition confronted the government in Rajya Sabha on Wednesday. A report that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had warned his MPs not to speak out had the opposition up in arms, questioning why the Prime Minister himself was not in the House, despite repeated demands by the opposition. The opposition asserted that they will not allow the House to function unless the Prime Minister replies to the discussion on communal incidents.
देश के प्रधानमंत्री क्या सदन के आग्रह को, सदन की मांग को स्वीकारते हुए वो आएंगे या नहीं आएंगे? और मैं स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूं, अगर प्रधानमंत्री नहीं आएंगे, इस सदन में कोई कार्रवाई नहीं होगी।
अगर प्रधानमंत्री जी को कुछ कहना है, अगर उनके सदस्य गलत कर रहे हैं, उनके मंत्री गलत कर रहे हैं, तो जिम्मेदारी प्रधानमंत्री जी की बनती है कि इस सदन में कहें।
I want to know from the Honorable Leader of the House, will the Honorable Prime Minister come to the House so that we can have a discussion on the matter that is contentious and on which we want to resolve and want the business of the House to continue.
The government tried to lob the ball into the opposition's court, slamming it for employing obstructionist strategies.
Sir, the Prime Minister has not announced any policy decision in the party meeting. And I have a point of order, which is, in the name of a point of order, can Mr. Naresh Agrawal every day raise a point of disorder?
आपके पास कोई मुद्दा नहीं है, आप मुद्दों के अकाल से जूझ रहे हैं, इसलिए आप इस तरह की हरकतें कर रहे हैं। ये ठीक नहीं है, आप चर्चा करिए,
Sharp verbal exchanges were witnessed between the Treasury and opposition benches. Opposition members barged into the well several times and raised slogans forcing 4 adjournments in the pre-lunch session. In the post-lunch session, when truce could not be brokered, the chair adjourned the House till Thursday.
The House is adjourned to meet on Thursday, 18 December at 11 hours.
Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
To meet tomorrow at 11 hours.
Now, amid sloganeering and uproar by opposition members, Rajya Sabha chairman invoked Rule 255 and asked Congress MP Hanumant Rao to withdraw from the House for the day. The Congress's request to relook the order fell on deaf ears.
Disruptions were the order of the day in Rajya Sabha on Wednesday. With repeated appeals from the chair to maintain order having no effect, Chairman Mohammad Hamid Ansari named Congress member Hanumant Rao under Rule 255 and asked him to withdraw from the House for the day.
Mr. Hanumant Rao is named under Rule 255. He should know the rule.
Later, when the House reconvened at 2 p.m., Congress MP Digvijay Singh and others requested the chair to relook its order.
अनुरोध है सर क्षमा बड़म को चाहिए, इसमें क्षमा करिए। ऐसा पहले भी कई बार होता आया है। आपसे मेरी प्रार्थना है कि हनुमंत राय जी के मामले में आप माननीय सभापति से अनुरोध करें कि उनका निर्णय वापस लें।
255 के बाद 256 भी देखिए। 256 में अब व्यवस्था में चेयरमैन इंगित कर सकता प्रस्ताव पे उसको पूरे सत्र तक निकल सकता है, लेकिन लास्ट में एक और लाइन दी हुई है कि अगर सदन सहमत हो तो चेयरमैन उसको वापस कर लेंगे।
However, the deputy chairman said there would be no discussion on the issue as Rule 255 stands final.
It is absolutely within the right. It is his ruling. Nobody can question it. So that ruling stands final. That cannot be questioned.
With no sign of an end to the deadlock and just 4 days left for the winter session to end, the government is now running out of time to get the approval of the House on a number of key legislations. Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the government introduced the Anti-Hijacking Amendment Bill 2014 in the Rajya Sabha on Wednesday. The bill provides for death penalty to hijackers. The bill seeks to amend the over 3-decade-old Anti-Hijacking Act of 1982. The government also withdrew the Anti-Hijacking Bill 2010 that has been pending in the upper house since then.
The Anti-Hijacking Amendment Bill 2014 was introduced by Civil Aviation Minister Ashok Gajapati Raju. The new bill seeks to increase the scope of punishment by allowing the award of death penalty. It also seeks to broaden the definition of hijacking and provides for speeding up trials. The proposed law would also give teeth to security forces to immobilize an aircraft and prevent it from taking off. According to the new bill, a hostile plane could also be shot down if there is evidence that it could be used as a missile. A stern action against those making phone calls and doling out hoax threats has also been proposed.
Anti-Hijacking Bill 2014.
The Civil Aviation Minister also withdrew the Anti-Hijacking Bill 2010. The pending legislation was introduced in the upper house by the then Civil Aviation Minister Praful Patel and referred to the Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture, which submitted its report in October the same year. The bill did not see the light of the day thereafter.
Bill for withdrawal, Anti-Hijacking Bill 2010, Shri Ashok Gajapati Raju Pushpati.
2010, introduced in Rajya Sabha on 19th August 2010.
The need for a stringent anti-hijacking law has been felt for long. Incidents like the hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC-814 in 1999 and the September 11, 2001 terror strikes in the US are cases in point. The new legislation has been brought to incorporate latest global treaties like the Beijing Protocol 2010 of the UN body International Civil Aviation Organization, which has been signed and ratified by India. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to the Lok Sabha now, where the issue of the circular asking students to attend school on 25th December was heard in the Lok Sabha again today. Members of the Congress, TMC and Left parties sought the suspension of questioner. These parties allege that the government is misleading the parliament on the issue.
Now, Speaker Sumitra Mahajan rejected the notice seeking suspension of question hour.
Therefore, I have disallowed both the notices of adjournment motion.
But KC Venugopal was allowed to speak during 0 hour. The Congress MP alleged that the government had sent out not one but 3 different circulars asking schools to observe Good Governance Day on Christmas Day.
The circular says that, I am quoting the circular, you are requested to ensure that Good Governance Day is celebrated in all JNV under your region. A consolidated report specifying activities carried out in all JNVs is to be submitted by email along with the photographs and video recording to this office on 25th December 2014.
Yes. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Venkaiah Naidu clarified that students at the government-run Navodaya schools have been celebrating Christmas at school since 1987.
There is no question of declaring holiday and sending the children to their homes except for authorized vacation period. All festivals should be celebrated in the Vidyalaya only, and children should not be permitted to visit their homes during the festival time. This is a circular 13th April 1987.
The Congress also alleged that the government sent out circulars to Kendriya Vidyalayas and technical institutions as well, besides Navodaya.
कि वो स्पष्ट रूप से उत्तर दें हाँ या ना कि क्या ये सारे सर्कुलर्स मंत्रालय के द्वारा इन सभी विभागों को दिए गए थे या नहीं.
HRD Minister Smriti Irani was present in the House during the debate, but she chose to stay silent. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, time for a very quick break right now, but coming up on the other side, the centre cannot appoint the Central Vigilance Commissioner without the Supreme Court's permission. More on that on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, the Supreme Court has asked the centre to take its prior leave before going ahead with the appointment of the Central Vigilance Commissioner and the Vigilance Commissioner. The court has also sought records pertaining to the selection process in a sealed cover. The court said that it wanted to see that proper procedure was followed for the appointment. An apex court bench, however, allowed the centre to continue with the selection process, including the scrutiny of applications of the candidates. The court has asked the centre to come back to it with an affidavit and other documents in a sealed cover on the next day of hearing. Now, the next hearing is on the 15th of January. The bench was hearing a PIL filed by NGO, Centre for Integrity, Governance and Training in Vigilance Administration. The PIL alleged that the government was going ahead with the appointment of the CVC and the VC without giving wide publicity to vacancies.
पर्याप्त नहीं है जो सरकार ने किया है. एक तो ऐसा लगता है कि एडवर्टाइजमेंट सिर्फ दिल्ली के अखबारों में किया गया. एडवर्टाइजमेंट में कोई डिटेल्स नहीं दिए गए कि भाई विजिलेंस कमिश्नर्स के लिए किस तरह की क्वालिटीज़ होना ज़रूरी है, किस तरह का एक्सपीरियंस होना ज़रूरी है.
Court has indeed directed the central government to do the needful. Then it must be having valid reasons for doing so. And the order of the Supreme Court is ultimately binding on all authorities, especially the central and state governments and the other instrumentalities of the governments.
Now, the Cabinet today has cleared the constitutional amendment bill to bring in a new goods and services tax regime. The decision was taken at a Cabinet meeting this evening. The decision will pave the way to table the GST as a bill in Parliament in the ongoing session. In fact, let's go across to our correspondent Vishal Dea, who's been standing outside 7RCR covering that meeting for us. Vishal, just tell us the details of what the Cabinet's decisions have been so far.
Well, Ishan, after more than 2 hours of deliberations in the cabinet, what our sources now say is that the cabinet has finally given its go-ahead to the constitutional amendment bill, which will pave the way for rolling in the GST regime. Now, the reason why we would require a constitutional amendment bill before the GST regime comes into force is because the taxation on several items are listed under 3 lists. That's state lists, central list and concurrent list, and to ensure that all those items, or rather majority of them as per the new GST regime, are brought under the central list, there has to be an amendment in the constitution, which will then, if cleared by the parliament, will then be ratified by at least 50% of the state assemblies. And once that is taken care of, then there will be the second of GST regime, which will come into effect, as in, formation of laws, and then there will be a GST council. So, in effect, this is the first and the most important step as far as rolling in GST is concerned.
All right.
It has been cleared by the Union Cabinet. Now, all eyes will be on Parliament.
Yes, and that brings me to my next question, Vishal. As far as the passage of this bill in Parliament is concerned, I mean, there were reports even of perhaps a joint session of Parliament with the government wanting to push through legislative business in this session. So, what's the possibility of this bill being tabled in Parliament in this session?
Well, the government would definitely want to go ahead and, bring it on the floor of the House in this session itself, because that would indicate the government's seriousness to go ahead with the economic reforms agenda. And let's not forget that this is an, item which has been pending since the UPA's regime. In fact, UPA wanted to roll it by 2010, but that was not possible. And after long deliberations, this bill has finally been cleared by the cabinet.
Right.
Obviously, the government would want it to bring it to Parliament in this session itself, but given the fact that there has been a deadlock between the government and the opposition in the upper house, and there are several other key important legislations which are also pending as far as the upper house is concerned. Definitely, it will be a uphill task for the government to ensure that this bill gets the nod of the house. But one thing which seems quite certain from the government's sources is that the government would like to introduce this bill in this session itself to indicate its seriousness as far as the economic reforms agenda is concerned.
All right, Vishal, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for that update for now. All right, moving on, here's a look at some of the other stories from across the country in Nationwide. Cold wave conditions continued in the Kashmir Valley and the Ladakh region on Wednesday. Srinagar recorded a minimum temperature of 4 degrees below freezing point. Leh slipped to a bone-chilling minus 13 degrees Celsius, even as the night temperature continued its free fall below freezing point across the Kashmir division. Police has arrested 2 militants of armed separatist outfit, National Democratic Front of Bodoland in Assam. Heavy arms and ammunition were recovered from the militants, which included a woman. According to the police, the couple was involved in supplying arms and ammunition to the NDFP. Low-cost airline SpiceJet has resumed its services after being forced to ground its entire fleet Wednesday morning. This after oil companies refused to refuel its planes. SpiceJet has reportedly been asked by the oil ministry to submit a 10-day plan for revival of the airline. Earlier in the day, scores of passengers were left stranded at various airports after their flights were cancelled at the last minute. Local fishermen in Tamil Nadu have launched an indefinite strike demanding the release of fishermen arrested by the Sri Lankan Navy. The fishermen also urged the centre to hold talks with the Lankan government on allowing them to fish in traditional fishing areas. On Tuesday, Chief Minister O. Paneerselvan had written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi saying the state government would release 30 Sri Lankan fishermen and 19 boats on the 22nd of December. Well, time for another quick break, but coming up on the other side, Sarita Devi has been handed a ban for 1 year by the AIBA. Centre writes a letter seeking to revoke the suspension. More on that on the other side. Welcome back. Here with the news tonight and some international news now. Now, Russia is in the deep grip of a financial crisis. After its steepest fall since the financial crisis of 1998, the Russian ruble stabilized a little on Wednesday. The Central Bank of Russia increased interest rates to stabilize the currency. Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said there is no reason to panic yet, but many fear the economy is heading towards a greater hit.
From 61 to 80 in just a few hours. Russia's currency, the ruble, was in a free fall as the currency lost about 20% of its value on Tuesday. It fell again on Wednesday morning. At one point on Tuesday, the Russian currency tumbled to 80 rubles against the US dollar. It later recovered to 70 rubles to the dollar and later stabilized to around 67 rubles to the dollar and 82 to the euro. The free fall has put policymakers under intense pressure. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev met representatives of the government's finance and economy units and the central bank management to figure a way out of the crisis.
Конечно, мы сталкиваемся с проблемами и вызовами в наших общих интересах, как можно быстрее навести порядок на валютном рынке. Никому, гражданам, ни банкам, ни реальному сектору не нужна такая нестабильность.
The Central Bank of Russia took emergency measures. The bank increased its key rate by 6.5 percentage points to 17%. The hike led to a brief rally in the value of the ruble, but it failed to provide a lasting solution. On Monday too, the central bank had spent about $2 billion in currency interventions. This compares to about $774 million spent during all of November.
И нужно адаптироваться к новым условиям и к новой политике Центрального банка. Мы понимаем, когда у них возникают вопросы, может быть, некоторые недопонимания нашей политики. Мы открыты, будем ее разъяснять, будем больше говорить о наших целях, о наших мерах для того, чтобы такое понимание было.
Довольно-таки нестабильная, волатильная атмосфера. Мне кажется, что многие фундаментальные факторы уже не работают и преобладает паника. Вот, что, наверное, не очень хорошо, и, естественно, в какой-то момент это может с такой же скоростью пойти в обратную сторону, но на текущий момент, конечно, настроение не очень.
But Russians seemed wary of the government's actions.
Ажиотаж надо сбить, нельзя этого делать. Сейчас пойдут все потянутся, сейчас начнут вытаскивать деньги, скупать все. Ну и что? Ну, нам же не хватит ни товарной массы, ничего. И мы все, банкроты. Ну, все идет к тому, что американцы хотят, чтобы снять президента.
Ordinary Russians saw this as an opportunity to stock up, with many flocking to stores to snap expensive products. Apple halted sales on its Russian online store. Bureau Report, Sabha TV.
Well, some sports now, and the centre has written to the AIABA to revoke the suspension of boxer Sarita Devi after she was handed a one-year ban today. Now, Sports Minister Mr. Sonowal said the government was pursuing the issue. Sarita had refused to wear her bronze at the podium ceremony after a semi-final loss to South Korea's Gina Park at Incheon in October, triggering a huge controversy. The boxer is barred from taking part in national and international events till October next year. However, her dream to represent India in the Olympics, though, still remains alive. The World Boxing Body also handed 2-year bans to Sarita's husband, Thoiba Singh, and coach B. Fernandez. Her coach, Lenin Methi, had also been banned for 1 year.
हमारी यही कोशिश थी कि उसे justice मिले. Whole idea about writing a letter and meeting the sports minister along with his team was that because of that one mistake, Sarita Devi's career should not be jeopardized.
बहुत खुश हूँ जो दौरान में स्पोर्ट्स मिनिस्टर और सचिन और बॉक्सिंग इंडिया और साई सब पूरा देश ने मुझे सपोर्ट किया, इसलिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद बोलना चाहूँगी. अभी मैं ओलंपिक खेलने के लिए मौका मिल रहा है, मैं पूरी तरह तैयारी करूँगी और अपना देश का नाम रोशन करना चाहती हूँ.
Now, the Supreme Court has reserved its orders on whether N. Srinivasan can contest the elections for the BCCI. The court also reserved orders on whether there is conflict of interest in Srinivasan owning the Chennai Super Kings. The Supreme Court had slammed Srinivasan for his dual role as board president and owner of the Chennai Super Kings through his company, India Cements. Earlier today, Srinivasan had argued that having commercial interests is not necessarily conflict of interest as per Supreme Court guidelines. The BCCI today also submitted a list of people with conflict of interest. The list includes the names like Sunil Gavaskar, Saurav Ganguly and Ravi Shastri, among many others.
तो कोर्ट ने कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पे तमाम दलील सुनने के पश्चात इस आदेश को रिजर्व कर लिया है और बीइंग अ पिटिशनर हमें खुशी है कि आज कोर्ट का आदेश जो भी आएगा वो क्रिकेट के हित में, बीसीसीआई के हित में जरूर ही अच्छा होगा और हमें अगले आदेश तक की इंतजार करनी चाहिए.
Now all the other sporting action in Sports Beat. On day one of the second test match against Australia, India dominated the host by scoring 311 for the loss of 4 wickets at the Gabba. Opener Murali Vijay scored 144 and shared a century stand with Ajinkya Rahane. Rahane will resume on 75 on day 2 along with Rohit Sharma. After the loss in the first test, India hopes to win the second test at the Gabba for the first time since 1988. Incheon Asian Games gold medalist Jeetu Rai broke his own record to claim the 10-meter pistol title for men in the 58th National Shooting Championship. Jeetu scored 202.3 to claim the gold. He broke his own national mark of 199.4, which he had set in the Munich World Cup earlier this year. European champions Real Madrid sailed into the Club World Cup final by crushing Cruz Azul 4-0. Defender Sergio Ramos gave Real the early lead with a header after 15 minutes. Karim Benzema added the second goal in the 35th minute. Midfielder Isco also added a goal in the 72nd minute and helped Real to claim victory. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.